So you're a food entrepreneur. You've got the passion, you've got the recipe, but what's going to make you last? It's not just about great taste, it's about building your business on a rock-solid foundation of food safety. Today, we're going to lay out a roadmap that turns safety from a chore you have to do into a powerful tool for growth. Let's jump in.
Here's what we're covering. First, we'll talk about why this is so important. The stakes are high. Then, we'll get into the legal stuff, your license to operate. After that, we'll build a real control system, look at how to unlock huge new markets, and finally, figure out when it's time to call in an expert. Think of it as our step-by-step journey from day one to going global.
All right, first things first. Let's get one thing straight. Food safety isn't just another item on your to-do list. It is the absolute non-negotiable foundation of your entire company. Seriously, if you get this part wrong, everything else, well, it just falls apart.
So let me ask you a question. When you think about food safety, what comes to mind? Is it just a cost? A bureaucratic headache filled with endless paperwork? A lot of people think that way, but honestly, that view completely misses the point, and it can be a catastrophically expensive mistake to make.
Because the consequences are, well, they're very real. The tragic listeriosis outbreak back in 2017 in South Africa was a brutal wake-up call for everyone. This wasn't just some news story. People died. And it forced an entire industry to get serious and adopt much stricter, mandatory safety systems. This proves one thing beyond a doubt. Paying to prevent a problem is always cheaper than paying for a disaster.
So what are we even talking about here? At its heart, food safety is actually a really simple promise. It's the guarantee you make to every single customer that what they're about to eat is safe. That's it. It's the trust your entire brand is built on.
And one of the biggest, most common threats to that promise is something called cross-contamination. Think of it as the invisible enemy in your kitchen. It's how nasty bacteria or an allergen can jump from a raw ingredient or a countertop or even your hands onto your finished food. Making sure this doesn't happen is like job number one every single day.
Okay, so you get it. The stakes are high. But where do you even start? Let's talk about the very first thing you need to get sorted before you can legally sell anything. This is your official license to operate.
In South Africa, this license is called a Certificate of Acceptability, or a COA for short. And let me be super clear, this is not optional. It is the law. Your local municipality issues it, and it's their way of saying, okay, we've checked this place out and it meets the minimum legal standards for hygiene. You can't open without it.
Now here's the kicker. Getting this certificate isn't just about having a spotless kitchen on the day the inspector shows up. They want to see proof that you have an ongoing system in place. They're going to ask for documents, things like your staff training records, your pest control plan, your fridge temperature logs. These pieces of paper prove that you're in control every single day, not just when someone is watching.
So, you've got your COA. Awesome. You're legally compliant. But the best businesses, the ones that grow, don't just aim for compliance. They aim for control. And that brings us to the next level up, building a proactive system to manage risk called HACCP. Okay, HACC. It stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. But look, forget the scary acronym for a second. Just focus on what it does. It's the global gold standard for preventing food safety problems before they happen. It's about being smart and scientific about safety, not just reactive. And it's all based on 7 pretty logical steps. First, you analyze your entire process to figure out what could possibly go wrong. Then, you pinpoint the most important steps where you can control those risks. You set hard limits, you watch them closely, and you have a clear plan for what to do if a limit is missed. And finally, and this is so important, you double-check that your whole system is working, and you keep records of everything. And for you, as the business owner, those last 2 steps are everything. Because all that verification and documentation, it's not just busy work. It's your legal shield. If something ever goes wrong, those records are your proof that you did everything right. It can literally save your business. All right, you've got local compliance handled, you have a strong HACCP system in place, but what if you're dreaming bigger? What if you want to see your product on the shelves of a major retailer or even export it? Well, this is where we need to talk about unlocking those global markets.
See, to play on the world stage, the big buyers want to see a globally recognized certification. That's where the Global Food Safety Initiative, or GFSI, comes in. Now, they don't hand out certificates themselves, but they act like a gatekeeper. They recognize certain high-level standards.
Think of a GFSI recognized certificate as a global passport for your product. It opens doors everywhere.
So you've got a few choices here. There's a standard called ISO 22000, which is a great framework for your internal systems, but, and this is a big but, on its own, it's not recognized by GFSI. For that global passport, you'll be looking at standards like FSSC 22000 or BRCGS. Which one you pick really just depends on your goals and who you want to sell to.
So what's the real difference? Why does FSSC 22000 get the GFSI nod and ISO 22000 doesn't? It all comes down to that one little word, plus. FSSC 22000 takes the entire ISO framework and then it bolts on extra, mandatory layers of protection. We're talking about things like food defense, which is protecting against intentional sabotage, and food fraud, which stops people from swapping out ingredients to cheat you. It's just a more complete, more rigorous system.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Going from a basic local certificate to a full-blown global certification, it can feel pretty overwhelming, and that is exactly where investing in an expert comes in. Think of a food safety consultant as the architect for your safety system. They drop the blueprints to make sure it's built right from day one.
So what do they actually do? Well, their main job is to take all this complicated stuff, the laws, the standards, all the acronyms, and translate it into a simple, practical, step-by-step plan that is tailor-made for your business. They save you a ton of time, they cut down your risk, and they basically act as your expert food safety manager on call. And let's be clear about what you're paying for. It's not just talk. You're getting actual stuff. A good consultant will come in, analyze where your gaps are, create all the documents you need, train your people, and get you totally prepped for that big audit. They are your partner in the trenches.
Okay, let's talk numbers. What does an investment like this look like? In South Africa, to set up a really solid HACCP system, you might be looking at somewhere between 30 and 80,000 Rand. Now, to make that leap to a GFSI-level system like FSSC 22000, well, it's a bigger investment, but that's because it's way more complex and it unlocks those much bigger, more profitable markets.
And here's something really important to remember. This isn't a one-and-done deal. To keep that valuable certificate hanging on your wall, you'll have an audit every year. But you shouldn't see this as just a cost. It's an ongoing investment in protecting your brand, your customers, and your access to those amazing markets you worked so hard to get into. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Take a hard look at your business. Is your approach to food safety just about surviving the next inspection? About ticking the minimum boxes? Or are you using it as a strategic tool, something you've engineered from the ground up to power your growth, build incredible trust, and open doors you never even thought were possible? Ultimately, the choice is yours.